Thank you, Yazoni. You forgive me now for my pronunciation, but Egu non, ongi etori. That's finito. I'd like to thank the Basque government for the opportunity to speak here today, and I must say myself and my colleagues have come over and have thoroughly enjoyed the visit to Vitoria-Gasteiz and in meeting with you and others. The coming together of people who are dealing with the same issues in different languages and countries in order to share experiences and expertise is central to what CAIR is trying to promote. I hope to outline in the following presentation what is currently happening in Ireland and how An Foras Pátrúnacht, my organisation, who are a member of CAIR, is attempting to address the demand for Irish medium education in the country. An Foras Pátrúnacht, as with other minority language organisations, is centrally focused on reversing language shift. We make our efforts through the education system, and we look to CAIR for the opportunity to learn from and with you in achieving all the goals that we as partner organisations and people who have issues in common hope to achieve. Yesterday we visited a school locally, and we spoke with some of your colleagues here, and it was very interesting to see the similarities between the issues that we all face. Sometimes when we were talking, the talk in social terms turns to football, and I was informed that here, as in Ireland, the #1 topic of conversation is football. So maybe we'll talk about football later and language now. I'll see if this works. My technical... wait, here we go. One moment now. I will get these in order properly. Okay, Martin. I don't know. Oh, to the up. I was pointing down, not up.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Here? No?
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. An Foras Pátrúnacht is similar to many organisations in CAIR, which have a dual purpose. They are educational organisations with the responsibility for educating children in their schools to the highest possible standard, but they're also driven by the goal of reversing language shift. This focus on promoting the minority language is the central aim of our organisations, and this priority influences, colours, tempers all our decisions and actions. Organisations such as An Foras Pátrúnacht have grown from a demand in Ireland in the public that Irish medium education be provided to the highest level. It strives to develop schools which protect, nurture and promote the language among our school communities, both inside the school and the community around it. Apart from those directly employed on Foras Pátrúnacht, the teachers in the schools, the process of success depends on the tremendous voluntary efforts of those supportive of the language. This ranges from the parents to members of our Board of Management or Board of Governors. And these people are motivated because of the value that they place on the language, and it's important to us, and their concern at the implication of its loss. And that comes up again now. I'm going back. Aha. So that is some of the topics I will be covering. And here is a quote from Fishman. A traditionally associated language is more than just a tool for communication. And the focus is on communication when we're teaching in school. But it's often viewed as a very specific gift, a marker of identity and a specific responsibility vis-à-vis future generations. And it was interesting listening to your colleagues yesterday discuss it at the table here when there was talk of ecology and the role it has for the next generation. In Ireland, as here, people are working tirelessly, reversing the language shift in their communities. And we have differing levels of support from public to governmental, and there are differing opinions as to the goals and aims that should be prioritised in Ireland. But there is an interest and a demand from various sectors that keep those involved moving forwards. You have this ray of hope. Turning the tide against the encroachment of the dominant language, which in our case is English. So I'm going to move into just briefly what is CAIR and what is An Foras Páirteanachta, and describe a little bit of where our position is in Ireland, because I think it'd be interesting to see. You have a lot of, from my understanding here, you have a lot of government support, and we have government support as well, but it's not as active. It's left up to individual organisations. In the Irish setting, there are many efforts afoot in the revitalisation of the language. We are currently undergoing some economic challenges, maybe here too, which have a major impact on the implementation of the different programmes, plans and strategies. Despite this situation with the economy, work is progressing in various sectors. We, however, look at the success experienced in other countries and look forward to building on our own successes as well. In Ireland, there has been considerable work done over many years in attempting to revitalise the language. And this has been done from state to voluntary levels. There has been some success and some disappointments and frustration. Currently, we're embarking on a new strategy which has set ambitious targets for the next 20 years. In this presentation, I hope to outline the plans in place in Ireland where the efforts of our organisation fit into what is happening nationally, because the 20-year strategy is a national government plan for the Irish language. I will point out the challenges that there are to be overcome and the opportunities that may be taken. We as member of CAIRS, and I looked yesterday at the contribution from Wales and the contribution that I heard here, we are looking further to furthering our collaboration with you and others working in the field to promote in the promotion of language through the educational field. An Foras Páirteanachta and our schools would very much welcome the opportunity to share the skills, expertise with you and the expertise that you have, and with expertise from other countries, with the aim of assisting us all to achieve our goals, to share, because I think there are issues that we all face in terms of reversing language shift. So what is An Foras Páirteanachta? An Foras Páirteanachta is the largest single patron of Irish medium schools in Ireland at both primary and secondary level. There are 61 primary schools and 5 secondary schools under our patronage. And An Foras Páirteanachta was founded in 1993, 20 years ago, so that new Irish medium schools opening in the coming years where parents would have a choice with regard to patronage. Up until then, the system in Ireland was that you could not open a school. The only patron that could open a school was a denominational patron or a religious patron or the state. So in terms of Irish medium schools, it was all the Catholic Church that opened up schools. So with the demand from parents, An Foras Páirteanachta was able to open up Irish medium schools, and the parents had a choice of ethos of the school. The school could be Catholic, it could be interdenominational, which was Catholic and Protestant, or it could be multi-denominational. The particular vision of An Forest Patrúnachta, and I suppose An Forest Patrúnachta is viewed in Ireland as the strongest proponent of the Irish medium ethos. In our schools, our Irish medium schools would be the fervent. We would be making the most efforts to ensure that the immersion is implemented correctly, that we spread the language and so on, and we campaign with the department persistently with it. But our vision and mission is to develop and strengthen and promote education through the medium of Irish throughout the country. And that would come challenging the department on some decisions they make if it doesn't concur or adhere to where we see it going, to provide parents with a choice of education through the medium of Irish, and to recognise their rights to this education provision, and to foster and develop an Irish language community, and to promote Irish language as a means of communication in general, because the school is critical, but without the community, you need for the language to go, you need the community. And we aim to support the aims of the 20-year strategy of the government. And what is a patron or a management body or a managerial body? It is a little bit different here. I believe that all schools are under the government. In Ireland, the definition of a patron and its legal basis of its role and duties are set out in a variety of documents and legal acts, which include the Constitution, the Education Act, other different acts. And basically, to put it simply, in Ireland, the patron owns the school, and then and is responsible for the protection and the promotion of the ethos of the school, the appointment and support of the board of management of the school, all financial and legal matters, the upkeep of assets, the supervision of staff appointments in accordance with department regulations. So the patron has a different role, I believe, than the system maybe as it is here at the moment. So moving on from that, I'd like to talk about the backdrop and a little bit of information on the Irish language in Ireland and what is the current situation with it. I suppose, firstly, a good place to start would be, what is the position of the Irish language? And in our constitution, the Irish language is viewed as the national language and is the first official language. The English language is recognised as the second official language. And provision may, however, be made by law for the exclusive use of either of those languages for any or more official purposes, anywhere throughout the state. But the interesting thing is that the Irish text of the Constitution takes precedence over the English text, so it's given that priority. But I suppose the Second Amendment to the includes changes to the Irish text to bring it more in line with the English version. And the Constitution also provides for a number of Irish language terms that are used even in English. The name for our Prime Minister is in Irish, it's called Taoiseach, and the Deputy Prime Minister is Taoiseach as such. In the Education Act, we have a body set up to advise the government on Irish medium education, and it contains other important references to the Irish language. It states, for example, that every person involved in the implementation of the Act shall have regard to the following. This means anybody who's employed by the Department of Education, teachers or whatever, they have to contribute to the realisation of a national policy and objectives in relation to the extension of bilingualism in Irish society, and in particular the achievement of greater use of the Irish language at school and in community, and to contribute to the maintenance of Irish as a primary community language in Gaeltacht areas. Gaeltacht areas are areas which Irish is the main language spoken. The Department of Education and Science or Skills is responsible for policy development, planning, provision, quality assurance and evaluation at all levels of education. Irish is taught as an obligatory subject for all pupils in primary and second level schools. So all students in Ireland must study Irish, except where pupils have been given exemptions on the basis of a learning disability or having previously studied abroad. The study of Irish is promoted through a national curriculum and is supported by teacher guidelines and in-service training for teachers. And students in the junior cycle and senior cycle may follow a program at 3 levels, and this is the older children from 12 to 18 years. They can follow a foundation level, an ordinary level or a higher level course. And students in the Irish Leaving Certified Applied programme follow a programme in communicative Irish. But there is also a network of Irish medium primary schools and second level schools. These are called Gael Scoilina at primary and Gael Choláistí at second level. And a range of courses taught through Irish are also provided at third level. In addition, the third level sector has a specific role in providing pre-service training of teachers to equip them to teach in primary and second levels. The department also supports youth work activities provided through the medium of Irish in the form of annual grant aid to Irish language voluntary organisations who work on the ground with the youth. The Official Languages Act of 2003, in July of 2003, the Official Languages Act became law, and this act was designed to provide a statutory framework for the provision of public services in the Irish language. It regulated a number of issues such as the use of Irish in official announcements and advertisements, and specified the obligation of the government regarding the Irish language, and attempting to improve the normalisation of the language, that you have access to documents and you conduct your business through Irish. They also provided for a language commissioner, an independent official appointed by the President of Ireland and head of the Office of the Commissioner of Official Languages. And the task of the Commissioner is to supervise the implementation of the Official Languages Act and to protect language rights. And I suppose what we find is that if different government departments are not adhering to the Official Languages Act, you will have individuals or organisations bringing a case to the Language Commissioner to ensure that they do so. And this causes some consternation at times. The government statement on Irish in 2006 was the backdrop to the 20-year strategy that we're engaging in now. And in that statement, I suppose what I'm trying to do here is to give you a picture of where the Irish language is sitting in Ireland and the official support for it. Now, sometimes that support officially isn't implemented as practically as we, who would be activists, would wish. But that is the situation, the official situation. The government affirms its support for the development in this statement on Irish. It affirms its development and preservation of the Irish language and the Gaeltacht. The government believes that the Irish language is of particular importance for the people, society and culture of Ireland. And as a spoken language community, Irish is unique to this country, or our country, and is therefore of crucial importance to the identity of the Irish people and to its heritage. And there was some talk of that here yesterday, the importance of language and identity. This statement of policy formed the basis on which a series of actions to benefit the Irish language and the Gaeltacht will be developed. And a 20-year strategy for the Irish language will be developed based on the objectives set out in this document. The vision of the document states that the last 100 years in Ireland has seen a flowering of literature and other art forms through the medium of Irish, such that Irish is now a fully fledged modern European language. The objective of the government policy in relation to Irish is to increase on an incremental basis the use and knowledge of Irish as a community language. Specifically, the government aim is to ensure that as many citizens as possible are bilingual in both Irish and English. The aim of the government policy is to strengthen the Gaeltacht area, the Irish-speaking regions, as an Irish-speaking community, and to increase the number of families living within the state who use Irish as the daily language of communication. Now, the Gaeltacht areas are mainly along the western coast of Ireland, from the top in Donegal to Galway to Kerry, and they are coming under increasing pressure from the English language, and whereas children would have gone to school years ago and would have come, and do still come, from Irish-speaking homes, when they move into the school social sphere, even though the language of instruction in the school is Irish, some of the school conversation of children in the schoolyard is English, even though they come from Irish-speaking homes. So there's an influence, there's support required for the Gaeltacht areas. Official recognition in the EU. On the 1st of January 2007, the Irish language attained its long sought after status as an official language of the European Union. Ireland has been a member of the EU since 1973. The practical implications of this change are many. Irish persons can now be employed in offices of the EU where 2 official languages are required, by specifying knowledge of Irish and English. Now, the demand for Irish and English in the EU is possibly not so many jobs there, but at the moment. A further consequence of the new status is a great increase in the amount of EU publications which are available in Irish, as is the right of the people to use Irish on official EU occasions and to have interpreting facilities provided. The reaction to the official status of Irish has in general been positive. However, it has been pointed out pointed out within Ireland that the increase in expenditure which this entails could have been applied to promoting the language at home, but you will always have these arguments. The 20-year strategy goes from 2010 to 2030. And the government strategy, as set out in this document, is organised around increasing the knowledge of Irish, creating opportunities for the use of Irish, and fostering positive attitudes towards its use. The specific objectives, and there's been a lot of debate about these objectives, but following on from the government statement on the Irish language in 2006, the headline goal has been set of increasing over 20 years the number of people with the knowledge of Irish from the current 1.66 million to 2 million. And the number of daily speakers of Irish, currently the number of daily speakers in Irish who use it on a daily basis is 83,000 people. And the aim of the strategy over 20 years is to increase it to 250,000 people. Now, as you can imagine, when this was put forward at home, there was a lot of debate and people did not agree and it was too much, or but that is the aim. The achievements of these ambitious goals has been the overriding consideration in formulating the decisions on areas for action in the strategy. And I'll focus a little bit on the areas in education. And just to give a picture of where it's coming from, recent reports in regard to Irish in schools and the teaching of Irish and the level of Irish in schools. Now, these are not Irish medium schools, these are English medium schools in general in the country. Department inspectors judged that Irish was taught to a good or very good standard in only half of the primary classrooms inspected, and that in a third of classrooms, Irish was taught through the medium of English. Pupils in just over half were able to express themselves satisfactorily in Irish. In the Harris report in 2007 indicated that in English medium and Gaeltacht Irish-speaking primary schools, there was a fall of 36.1% and 40.5% respectively in the number of pupils achieving mastery in the development of listening, vocabulary and comprehension skills between 1985 and 2002. So there was a drop of 30% and 40% in these areas. While a little over half of pupils mastered fluency of oral description and communication in 1985 in English medium schools, less than 1/3 mastered them in 2002. So the trajectory has been down in the ability to speak. The study also found a marked decline in teachers' confidence, with almost 25% of teachers in English medium schools rating their own standards of spoken Irish as weak. So I suppose that the attitude of the department in Ireland is that once a teacher goes through the system and they studied Irish and they are now qualified to teach Irish. But the reality on the ground is that some of the teachers who are coming out through the system do not have the confidence and the mastery of the language to complete it. In our schools, on Forest Patrúnachta, there is a clear guideline to the boards of management who employ the teachers that in the interview process, all teachers must be thoroughly interviewed and the board must be satisfied that not alone can the teacher teach Irish and teach through Irish, but that they must be able to function as part of a school community, dealing with staff meetings, dealing with parents, dealing with boards of management and the management of the school, all through Irish. So you can see, I suppose, where on Forest Patrúnachta is trying to set a higher bar for the teachers and the schools that we have. At post-primary level, secondary level, reports on a third of schools refer to limited oral ability among students at the junior cycle. So this is in second level, first, second, third years. Steps have been taken in the interim to increase the marks available for the voluntary oral at junior cycle and the national oral in the Leaving Certificate to 40% for all new entrants who began schooling in 2007-2008. As part of their final examinations now in school, in second level school, 40% of your Irish examination is marks, 40% of the marks go on the oral. So it's an attempt to put the focus on the oral and get children communicating through Irish. While the foregoing facts indicate the scale of the challenge, the actions proposed in the area of education are designed to achieve the underlying principles of the strategy, to enhance and extend the ability in Irish more deeply and among larger numbers of people, to reverse negative attitude towards the Irish language usage and foster positive attitudes in their place, and to expand the available opportunities for the use of Irish within the education system by extending Irish as a medium of instruction as well as a subject, and by linking school language learning to the informal use of Irish in recreational, cultural and other out-of-school activities. So that is the focus of it. The government statement on the Irish language in 2006 contains three education objectives. Firstly, that Irish will be taught as an obligatory subject from primary to Leaving Cert. So that still remains. The curriculum will foster oral and written competence in Irish among students and an understanding of its value to us as a people. And this will be supported by enhanced investment in professional development, and ongoing support for teachers, as well as in provision of textbooks and resources, and in support for innovative approaches to teaching and learning. The second objective was that a high standard of all Irish education, and I suppose this is the sphere that An Forest Patrúnachta are in, that a high standard of all Irish education will be provided to school students whose parents, guardians so wish. So it's putting the emphasis back on the parents if there is a demand from parents for Irish medium education, the department says they will cater for this demand. They will ensure that it is provided. And sometimes this is where a little bit of conflict occurs between on Forest Patronato and the department, in that we will have parents approaching us consistently looking for Irish medium education schools, and the department say, well, you know, they have a different system, and they argue against its opening of schools. The objective number 7 is that the Irish language and preschool education will continue to be supported, and third level education through Irish will be further developed. I'd just like to give you a little bit of what is the situation with speakers and education. And figures from the Central Statistics Office and the National Census of 2006 report that the number of people with knowledge of Irish currently is 1.66 million. I mentioned that earlier. And the number of daily speakers of Irish is 83,000 people. The last census in 2011, we're looking at some of those figures coming out shortly. And just as an interest, just to go back over that, the structure of the education system in Ireland, I noticed yesterday when we visited a local school here in Vitoria-Gasteiz that the kindergarten or the preschool was part of the school and was inclusive in the school. In Ireland, it's different. The preschool system is, or the kindergarten system, is run as a private business, and therefore I suppose the structuring of the language development and ensuring that it's done as perhaps the education system would like is not as controlled perhaps as it is here. And preschool level goes between 3 to 5 years. The primary level then is from age 4 to 12 years, and the second level it goes from 12 to 18 years and 17 on upwards. And I suppose then I thought it would be interesting to define what is the Irish medium school, or a Gaelscoil as we call it here. An Irish medium school or a Gaelscoil is a school for us in which all the business of the school is conducted through the medium of the Irish language, and this would be similar here. The classes are taught through the medium of Irish, all communication of the school and staff is conducted through the Irish. The business of the Board of Management, the board which manages the school on behalf of the patron, is conducted through the medium of Irish, and the pupils of the schools are inspired and encouraged to speak Irish between themselves. The school supports and strengthens the Irish language speaking community inside and outside the gates of the school. So therefore, the school is viewed as a catalyst for the promotion of Irish in the community, and an opportunity for people, parents and other community groups to develop the speaking of Irish. Irish is taught as part of the curriculum in schools in Ireland. However, in primary schools under the patronage of Forest Patronato, we practice the immersion model, where English is not taught until the second term of senior infants as a language. So basically, there's no English spoken by the junior teacher in the first year or half of the second year. So they only begin formal instruction in English as a subject in the second half of their second year. Irish medium schools emphasise being open and welcoming in order to strengthen the parents' involvement and participation in schools, classes, and working with the Parents Association. Because it's the Irish medium school movement, if you want to use that word, in Ireland has been parent-led. There is an emphasis on bringing the parents in and encouraging the parents and to become involved, and therefore, and it was interesting to see there is a certain atmosphere and an openness in the Irish medium schools in Ireland that you will not get in the English medium schools, which traditionally were more introverted. Excuse me. There are approximately 43,000 pupils receiving education through the medium of Irish outside of the Gaeltacht at the moment. So the Gaeltacht areas are the areas where Irish is spoken, as I said. So outside of that, there's approximately 43,000 students getting their education through Irish. Gael Scoilina, outside of the Gaeltacht areas, presently in Ireland there are around 3,300 primary schools. And out of that number, 141 of them are Irish medium schools. So out of 3,000 primary schools in Ireland, only 141 are Irish medium schools. That's 4.4% of all schools. So it's a tiny percentage. It's not surprising then in that way that there is huge demand for Irish medium education at present. We find that parents are willing to travel and drive great distances to schools that are Irish medium and that their children can get places and access to these schools. Within the Gaeltacht areas, or where there are the Irish-speaking areas, there are 143 primary schools. And they are situated in, as I said earlier, in the 7 counties along the west coast mainly, and maybe some in Meath and Waterford as well. And the interesting statistics about these schools are that 98 of these schools, the 143 schools, 98 of the schools, there are 3 teachers or less. And the numbers, and they're constantly under pressure for numbers. This is different from the trend we are seeing over the past 20 years in the Irish medium schools outside of the Gaeltacht, outside of the Irish-speaking areas, where it's an indication of the move towards the urbanisation in Ireland as well, where schools are continually growing, where the Irish medium schools outside of the Gaeltacht areas are growing and blossoming. And in the Gaeltacht areas, because of immigration or migration towards the eastern part of the country, the numbers are falling. Therefore, the total number of schools that function through the medium of Irish in Ireland at primary level is 284, which amounts to, in total, about 8% of the total number of schools. So the growth then of that chart there just indicates the growth of Irish medium schools outside of the Gaeltacht area. And what you will see was that in 1972 there were 10 Irish medium schools outside of the Gaeltacht areas. And the growth has been, there's only one direction. So the demand has seriously grown over the last 20 or 30 years. In 1993 there were 74. And in 2012 there were 140 Irish medium primary schools. 59 of these primary schools are under the patronage of An Forest Patrúnachta at the moment, and we are currently opening 2 new schools in South County Dublin and North Kildare and Kildare by 2014. And again, this is in the eastern part of the country where there is migration towards and where the population is moving towards, as where there is a demographic growth, and that demographic growth has resulted in a demand for Irish medium schools. Okay. Now again, that's just a chart saying, you know, with a little bit of a breakdown of the 4.4% of the primary schools outside the Gaeltacht are in the 26 counties. The 5.9% of primary schools outside the Gaeltacht are in the 26 and currently attending, the amount of pupils attending Gael Scoilina. And there's some figures there on the number of pupils attending outside an Irish medium education outside the Gaeltacht is 31,000, and in total is 33,000. Excuse me. Now, at second level, which is an interesting facet, because of our earlier chart there where we see the rise of the growth of the number of primary schools, in a way it's understandable that the demand for second level education would follow on from these particular groups. So there are 36 post-primary schools, Irish medium schools in Ireland, and there are another 5 in Northern Ireland. The patronage of these schools is primarily spread across the different patrons, including again the religious orders, the vocational education committees, which is under the Department of Education, and An Foras Pátrúnachta. And 4.9%, currently there are 3 secondary schools under the patronage of An Foras Pátrúnachta, and we're opening 2 more in 2014, again in the Dublin area. 4.9% of the post-primary schools are outside the Gaeltacht areas in the 26 counties are Gaelcholáistí or have Irish medium units, and I'll talk about units in a little while. 2.2% or 2% of post-primary schools pupils outside Gaeltacht areas are in the 26 counties currently attending Gaelcholáistí or Irish medium units, and the number of post-primary school pupils in Irish medium education outside of Gaeltacht areas is 8,000. So there's currently 8,400 receiving second level education through the medium of Irish. And another figure there, I suppose, would be if you include the amount of students in Gaeltacht areas, it goes up to 9,100. So that's just currently, as I'll refer to this area, but currently there's the divestment of Catholic schools in Ireland, and there's part of a marketing campaign on choosing why Irish medium education. And as I mentioned earlier, maybe a little different from here as well. I know you have parents who are pushing for it and are interested for Basque medium education and the promotion of the language. In Ireland, the push is mainly from parents. And the feedback that is received to our schools and to An Foras Pátrúnachta on the why they choose Irish medium education, in terms of some of the surveys that we've done with parents, are basic things such as maybe they cannot speak Irish, but it's important to them that their child can speak Irish. They also get an insight that they recognise that their child will get an insight and a love for Irish culture and other cultures that perhaps they won't as much without the Irish medium instruction. They also recognise that there's a certain pride developed in the language by going to these schools. There's a pride in the culture, and as a result, a recognition of a pride of the children in their own identity. They place great importance on the ability to speak, read and write in the Irish language and the benefits that go with it. And there's a recognition in Ireland that Irish medium schools provide a generally high level of education, which is higher than perhaps the perception of the English medium schools. And of course there's a child-focused development of the self-confidence and identity of the child. And perhaps what parents view there is that the model in the Irish medium schools places a lot of emphasis on the performance, the child communicating, whether it's through drama or song or whatever, and that this extra emphasis and the communication develops the social skills of the students, and it's appreciated there. In terms of literacy and numeracy, at present in Ireland, the Department of Education have placed importance on the promotion of literacy and numeracy in schools due to disappointing results in a PISA report, which is an international study. Irish medium schools have consistently performed better than the national average in numeracy and literacy. Below, I'm going to show you now in a moment, is a table that one of our schools used when illustrating Irish medium schools on a national mathematical test. And I don't know if I have it there now, but basically what they have there, I have a table here in front of me which stated that this school, their average was, and the 16th percentile, 16th percentile are below in the national mathematical test. They had 10% of children. The national average was 16% in that grouping. In the 85th percentile or above, they had 29% in that grouping, and the normal distribution in Ireland was 16. So there's a promotion of how well they're doing. Now I've got a note there, so I better hurry up. The 20-year strategy, and I'll just try and get through this quickly. The strategy itself recognises the need for a phased approach. So currently we're in a preparation mode, and there's a lot of background work going on. From 2012 to 2014 they will be implementing the foundation stage. Then after this there will be the full implementation, and in phase 3 all measures that they hope to carry out will be mainstreamed. But whilst the work is continuing there, what's happening on the ground, and this is what is of interest to us, is when we wanted to open schools up to 2008, the process was that parents approached the Forest Patrúnachta. We went to the department and applied to open up a school, and as long as we met certain criteria, whether it was number of pupils, accommodation, etc., they sanctioned a temporary recognition for a school. But due to the economic situation in Ireland and the pressure on the department with the demographics and the growth in population, the new system has been in place, and the department has decided that no new schools will be opened unless there is a demographic requirement for a school in an area, and the demographic requirement due to the number of growth of or number of children in that area seeking education. And as you could see from earlier comments, this is happening mostly towards Dublin and the wider area around there. Now, there are pluses and minuses to this system. Basically, at least schools are being opened, and there is no issue with the resourcing of the schools because they're department funded. But some of the drawbacks, and indeed, as you can see, we are currently opening schools. We have opened up 2 in the last year and are opening more in the next few years. But the problem with it is that the department will only open schools where there's a demographic demand. And if there are areas where there is stable population growth, there is no provision to open up an Irish medium school, and that is an issue for a lot of our parents. The process also favours patrons. As I mentioned earlier, there are different types of patrons, and Forest Patrúnachta is the only patron in the country which its main aim is to promote the Irish medium education. And the process currently available favours patrons who are more financed and more well-resourced, we'd say, than on Forest Patrúnachta. And unfortunately for these patrons, their main aim is not the Irish medium education. But what has happened under the new system, we've opened up, as I said, a number of schools at primary level, and looking to open up 2 and second level in the next couple of years. Second level is more challenging, and the department seems to have more issues with that. But thankfully, we've opened up 2 large schools. Will be opened up in 2014 to add to the number we have at the moment. An interesting development in Ireland at the moment is there has been a lot of pressure nationally from different groups to provide a diversity in terms of the religious ethos or the spiritual ethos of our schools. And a number of international findings have or studies have recommended that Ireland should diversify its primary school system and have more choice for parents. The new government in 2010 made an announcement that there were 3,000 Catholic schools in the country, primary schools, and that the Minister for Education suggested that 1,500 or 50% of these schools should be divested to other patrons. So therefore, we're engaging in a process at the moment in Ireland where communities in different areas, parents are being surveyed as to what type of school model they would like in their area that is not there. So they are being asked whether or not they want an English medium school or an Irish medium school. They're asked then whether they want a multi-denominational ethos or some different type of ethos. For us, in the Irish medium sector, we feel this is a great opportunity to at least maybe provide more choice and more Irish medium education in areas around the country. Now, perhaps the Minister's announcement of 1,500 schools was optimistic, but at least it gives the opportunity of going through the country area by area and offering the parents of that area, do you wish Irish medium education? And perhaps that will be an avenue that we may be able to pursue into the future. So in conclusion, I suppose it's a short overview of the current situation in Ireland in relation to Irish medium education. It's different perhaps to emphasis to what you have here, but there are some commonalities. We are one of the organisations centrally involved in the promotion of the Irish medium education. An Foras Patrúnachta is endeavouring to address the demand for this type of model in the context of what is being promoted in the 20-year strategy. But during the current economic downturn with budgetary restrictions, etc., it curtails, I suppose, the capacity of us of the government to implement a more comprehensive provision of it. An Foras Patrúnachta, as a member of CAIR, feels that there are many mutual benefits from working closely with you and other groups and organisations involved in the delivery of education through minority languages. And our schools, both at primary and secondary level, are anxious to share our expertise and discuss challenges and develop strategies for assisting us all achieve our goals. An Foras Patrúnachta, as patron of our schools, are anxious to work in unison with our other CAIR partners in promoting the case for all our language education in a European context. CAIR, we feel, is an excellent vehicle to assist us to achieve our mutual aims, and we look forward to developing and furthering this opportunity during the next year. I would like to extend my thanks to the Basque government, to the people who have welcomed us here, to Yazone, who did all the work and contact with us and who worked tirelessly to organise this opportunity. And I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation today. Thank you very much.